part 2, or part 6, whichever you like. We've been conducting a series of talks on Haridwar, the gate to Hari's abode in the spiritual world, Vaikuntha. And today we're due west of Haridwar in a different state, Haryana state, at a place called Kuruksetra, named after King Kuru. So this morning we heard some of the glories of the place, Kuruksetra, and now we're hearing about the founder. Can I ask a small favor? With your back towards Prabhupada, it's a little awkward, one way or the other. Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Okay, so we don't have to review this morning because you were all here this morning. The holy place, Kuruksetra, is an eternal holy place. And in the course of history, according to Vedic rendering, different names at different times, but always a holy place. And it became named Kuruksetra at not exactly the request of Kuru, but because of the activities of Kuru. And he had a very specific objective in his mind. And that was, in addition to the fact that it was already a holy place, or pilgrimage place, or a sacred place, he wanted it to be able to bestow both heaven and Vaikuntha for persons who participated there. And so he underwent tapa, so different austerities in order for that to happen. And he got benedictions from both Lord Indra and Lord Vishnu for that to happen. And we're going to hear that history. So a little bit of the beginning here. Here's who is King Kuru. So King Kuru, we heard this morning, is in the line of the Moon Dynasty. And we'll hear how that happened. Because prior to the Moon Dynasty, there was the Sun Dynasty. And how did the Sun Dynasty come to the earthly realm? Answer was, the sun god had a son whose name was Manu, Vaivasvata Manu. And Manu had a son whose name was Ikshvaku. And Ikshvaku was sent to Ayodhya on the earthly plane from the kingdom of the sun god in the sun planet to begin the Sun Dynasty, or to the rule of divine kings on earth. This was Manu's idea, and he sent his son. In fact, he not only sent his son, but he built the city, the place where his son could make as his capital. Ikshvaku made Ayodhya his capital, and then further down the line, different kings, successor kings, sons of the king became the next king, and so forth. Ramchandra, very prominent person in the Sun Dynasty or Surya Dynasty. And then one of the sons, one of the offspring in that Sun Dynasty resulted in the establishing of the Lunar Dynasty. So we're going to hear how that happened. So who is King Kuru? He appeared in this Lunar Dynasty, or the Moon Dynasty, or Chandra's Dynasty, or Soma's Dynasty, the Dynasty of the Moon, in the following way. He, according to Vayu Purana, Kuru was the son, that's that young boy you see there. He's the son of Samvarna. Samvarna. And Samvarna had a queen. We'll hear a little bit about her. Her name is Tapati. And Suvarna had a son named Kuru. So they're in that lunar dynasty. And they're the son of Kuru. We'll hear more details. Hear more details as we go along. We already saw this image this morning. One of the great contributions of Kuru was to, in a devotional way, labor like he's a king, but he's acting like a Vaishya, like an agriculturalist, plowing the land with a golden plow. Now here it shows he is using his hands to plow, but it also, we heard this morning, other entities became pulling the plow. The bull, Nandi of Lord Shiva, and so forth. So he was busy not just plowing the field, but planting auspiciousness, or the 8 principal virtues, because virtues in themselves help to attain the heavenly realm, but they don't help specifically, directly, to achieve the spiritual realm or Vaikuntha realm. So he achieved both. But that was his dedication. And that wasn't, so it could be named after him and he would live forever by calling it Kuruksetra instead of something else. He truly wanted auspiciousness for everyone, not only his citizens in his country, in his kingdom, but everyone, at all times, all places, etc. Kuru married, and had 4 sons. The 4 sons it's a nice image. This is found in 9th canto, chapter 22. Just because I've been discussing this at length with the Chinese devotees. So the Sun Dynasty discussion happens in Canto 9, and it ends in chapter 14. Then starting with chapter 15, the discussion moves into the Lunar Dynasty. So from 15 to the end of the chapter, as you see, chapter 22 is well into the Lunar Dynasty. But Kuru is an important personality in the Lunar Dynasty, not only for the naming of the Kuruksetra after himself. Now Kuru, Canto 9 come before Canto 10, somehow. And in Canto 10, Krishna appears. So before Krishna appeared, all these events. It's the Lunar Dynasty before Krishna appeared, in the Lunar Dynasty, same dynasty. And by the time the Dharmakshetra Kuruksetra event takes place, the Bhagavad Gita, Samaveta Yuyutsavaha, Ma Makam Pandavaschaiva Kim Akruvarta Sanjaya. Dhritarashtra said, "O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kuruksetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? Well, guess what? They fought." But he wanted to hear the rest of it. Now, Kuru was part of this same dynasty that Krishna gave protection to. Mention is made in Queen Kunti's prayers. Canto 1, chapter 8 is Queen Kunti's prayers, where Kunti is honoring Krishna's magnanimity in protecting the dynasty of Kuru. So there you can say the dynasty of Vrishni, the dynasty of the Andakas, or the different celebrated ancient kings. Kuru was one of them. And so it's appropriate to say all these things. Here's a little bit of the description of how Kuru was born. Vivaswata Manu not only had a son, Vivaswan not only had a son named Manu, but he had a daughter. And the daughter was named Tapati. Now Vivaswan is in the Sun dynasty because he's a sun god. But he had a daughter named Tapati. And there was a king in the ancestor of Kuru, predecessor of Kuru, and his name was Samvarana. So once upon a time, Samvarana was hunting in the forest, and his horse died in the forest. And so he was not with his regular carrier, his horse carrier, and he became very tired, very hungry, very thirsty. And in the midst of this distressful situation, he saw this very beautiful Tapati lady. And he became very captivated by her beauty. And, very straightforward, forthright, he spoke to Tapati, "Who are you, and what's your situation? What are you doing here in the forest?" She disclosed, and he said, "With your permission, with your father's permission, I'd like to marry you." And she said, "You have to ask my father." "And who's your father?" "Vivaswan, the sun god." Oh. So, he prayed intensely to Suryadev for her hand in marriage. This is a nice little graphic showing. And sure enough, not only this image of the sun god, but he came himself in person. Suryadev appeared and said, "Yes, you can marry my daughter." And he then, in turn, blessed Tapati, his daughter, and the king, Samvarana, that they would have a very wonderful son, a virtuous son, who would bring glory to the Sun dynasty. But remember, we're going to transition to the Moon dynasty between the Sun dynasty. But the Sun god is generating the Sun dynasty. So Kuru was born, and this is taken directly, the verse directly from Mahabharata. From Samvarna and Tapati was born the great king Kuru. From Kuru came the Dhritarashtras and Pandavas, O king. Now, this is a verse in Mahabharata giving the ancestry of both. Both means they're of the same, they're cousins of the same dynasty. Now, they're in the dynasty of the moon, but we've been speaking a little bit about the sun, because Tapati is the daughter of the sun god. But so how it became transformed into lunar dynasty, we'll hear. Now, some persons, I'm one of those persons, I get really confused with genealogical tables. So if you're one of those people like me, get ready to get confused. But here's a chart. We're going to go way up to the upper left. And I've got a little laser pointer here. There's Garbhodakshay Vishnu. This we all know. And from Garbhodakshay Vishnu came Brahma. And in yesterday's session, we heard about the Sapta Rishis, 7 Rishis, Atri being one of those Sapta Rishis, one of the 7. And Sapta and Atri was a direct son, a Manasaputra son of Lord Brahma. And one of the sons of Atri he had 3 sons. And one of those 3 sons was Soma. Soma is one of the names for the moon. Chandra is another name, the god of the moon. Soma, Chandra. So it's said that his wife, Atri's, we're back up here, Atri's wife became impregnated by the tears of Atri, and Soma was born as their son. Now, this is where the connection, because this is, we're still in this Surya dynasty, or the Sun dynasty, but he married Tara. Well, he didn't exactly marry Tara. He kind of kidnapped Tara. We'll hear the detail, but just for the sake of interest and clarification, Tara was the wife of Brihaspati. And Soma was a proud fellow. And he was very attractive, and he attracted the wife of the priest, or the spiritual master of the demigods. And she was attracted to him, and he was attracted to her, and off they went. And it caused a problem, needless to say. And before the problem got completely resolved, they had a child. We're going to hear more about that child. The child is pictured or named here. And notice it's spelled different than Lord Buddha. It sounds the same, but if it's a Sanskrit linguist, you would pronounce them differently because they are different. This is a king. Their son became a king. Without all the details. So Buddha then became attracted and married Ila. And there's a very interesting Mahabharata story in relation to Ila. We'll go into it as we go forward. But then those two combined, Buddha and Ila, and they had as a son Pururava, who is different than the Puru that's mentioned over here, because his name is Pururava. And Pururava was undergoing austerities, and Urvashi, who's, some of you that know Mahabharata, it's like, this is a piece of cake. But for those of us that are not so familiar with Mahabharata, it's like, this is too many names. But here we go. Urvashi was an Apsara. Apsara means not exactly in the demigod region, not exactly in the earthly region. She's in this in-between region. Bhuvar Loka. Apsaras and Kinnaras and Gandharvas and Siddhas and Charanas, they're in that in-between region. They're not demigods, they're not earthly. So, Urvashi is from that Apsara region, and she became very attracted to Pururava and vice versa. And so they got together what's called the Gandharva marriage, which means they just consent. You say yes, I say yes, and we're married. Done. Very quick. Not the normal, but that's what they did. And they had a son whose name is pictured at the very bottom here. And then he had a son, and we go down and down and down, and we know who Yadu is. In the dynasty of Yadu was Krishna and Balaram. Yes? Yadu dynasty, Krishna Balaram. And then there's another contemporary of Yadu, his name was Puru. And guess what? Puru's line is pictured over here, the next line, we're going to hear something about Dushmanta and Shakuntala. And they had a son named Bharata, which is different than like Ramchandra's brother Bharata. The spelling is different. The pronunciation is different, but it's close. And then way over here, this is in that same family line, there's Kuru. So by now, Kuru and his predecessors, they're in this Chandra dynasty, Moon dynasty. And we'll be clear about how we got to the Moon dynasty from the Sun dynasty. I promise you it'll be clear. And over here, keep going, there's Santanu, who married Ganga, and they had as their son Bhishma Dev. Okay? I could do it again if you want me to do it again, but it's a lot of names for those people that are new. Just too many names. Okay, I don't hear anybody saying do it again, so I'm going to move on. Here's another chart basically saying the same. This is the Chandra dynasty, and the Chandra dynasty was started over here between the combination of Soma, the moon god, and Tara. We'll see how we got to this dynasty. So here's Soma, who begins the Moon dynasty. So we hear, this is the verse from Canto 9, chapter 14, where Soma is born. And there it says, from the tears of Atri Muni's eyes, tears of jubilation, a son was born named Soma, who was full of soothing rays. Now, he was full of soothing rays, and he was entrusted with a lot of responsibility. And one of those responsibilities was looking after the Brahmanas. And he had a lot of responsibility, and he was very powerful. It shows him riding on his carrier as a reindeer, but he could travel anywhere in space he wanted, and powerful. And so powerful that one time when he had an encounter with the wife of Brihaspati named Tara, well, he liked her and she liked him. Woo-woo, let's get together. She's married. She's married to the priest, the spiritual master of the demigods. And he kind of like, let's go. And she said, yeah, let's go. And off they went. And that created a furor amongst the demigods. But Soma was a very powerful warrior, and he held them back. And he didn't want to let go of Tara, and Tara didn't want to let go of him. And many, many, many things happened. Mahabharata, many complex things happened. And eventually, she returned to her husband, already with a child on the way. And her husband, again, Brihaspati. So it's not like Brihaspati just forgot what his wife had done or forgot what Buddha had done, but there was a child on the way. And the child was given the name Buddha. So the son of Soma and Tara. Now this is where Buddha was the first king in the lunar dynasty. This is how it became, because Soma is the moon god, and he is the father of his son. And so the son, named Buddha, began the Moon dynasty. Clear? It should be clear. And that's how it started. And then something happened. The next thing that happened was Buddha became very attracted to the daughter of Vaivasvata Manu. Now, Vaivasvata Manu is in the Sun dynasty. Vivaswan, his son is Vaivasvata Manu. So Buddha became very attracted to Ila. Now there's a little history. Get ready for some complicated Mahabharata history. When Vaivasvata Manu wanted to have a child, he arranged for Vashishta to do the appropriate yagyas so he would have a child. And he wanted a son. But Manu's wife whispered in the Brahmana's ear, I want a daughter. And so Vashishta made an arrangement with the mantras so that a daughter was born. And she was given the name Ila. And Ila became the wife of Buddha, the son of the moon god, and Tara. Complicated? It gets more complicated. You'll be ready for this one. What happened was Vaivasvata Manu went back to his priest, Vashishta, and said, Vashishta, what happened? And Vashishta said, what happened? Your wife wanted a daughter, and so I gave the mantras for a daughter. Then he said, Vaivasvata Manu said, do you know any mantras to change the girl into a boy? And he said, yeah, I can do a yagya, and your daughter can become a boy. So sure enough, that's what happened. Ila became a young man. Not a transvestite, it's just a young man named Sujumna. It gets more complicated. What happened was Sujumna, not knowing any better, he went to a place where Lord Shiva and Parvati were. And he didn't read the sign that says, no men allowed. He entered, and as soon as he entered, he became a woman again. It's not sex change, he just became a woman again. No surgery, none of that stuff. It just became a woman again. And then the father, Vaivasvata Manu, went back to Vashishta. What to do? And a suggestion was made, well, this much I can do. I can make an arrangement so that the Sujumna, now Ila again, can 1 month be male and another month be female. So that's what happened. And during that period of time that Buddha was married to the female, Ila, then a son was born. It gets less complicated. Different kind of complicated. So that son's name, we saw his name before, but here it is again, Pururava. Pururava. Remember that name? Pururava. So Pururava was very attractive, very qualified, and very this and very that, and a little bit on the lusty side. Not exactly very lusty, but it was on the lusty side. And Indra got a little bit nervous, so Indra sent one of the Apsaras, whose name was Urvashi, to become attracted to and, hang out with Pururava. And so she agreed, and they hung out together, and guess what? Children were born. Several generations after Pururava, but what the image is showing is after they had children, she disappeared. And Pururava went mad, looking, where did she go? And finally he found her in a certain place, and she said, no, but you're so obsessive, this is ridiculous. We can be with one another one day out of a period of time, a year or something like that, and that's it. That's it. So, and sons will be born, so you'll have generation to be the next kings. So, even in higher realms, it gets messy, right? So, it doesn't give us an excuse because it gets messy in higher realms. I guess we can get more messy than the higher realms. That's not how it goes, but it happens. It's one of the lessons of the 9th canto of the Bhagavatam. Don't think that you get into this higher realms and things are going to be unmessy. Material desire makes things messy. And there's one way to get rid of material desire. It's not suicide. It's purification. Purification by different means, and the best of all means is bhakti, and that's the method. That's the lesson. Okay. So after several generations in the dynasty of Pururava, there was a king named Dushmanta. So once upon a time, Dushmanta, he was in the forest, and he saw, a very beautiful woman named Shakuntala. Shakuntala what happened to be the daughter of Vishvamitra and Menaka. That's a whole other story. How was Vishvamitra doing with the daughter? Because anyway, it was Indra's business. He sent another lady, Menaka, to attract him, and they had union, and a son was born. Daughter, excuse me, thank you. A daughter was born, Shakuntala. So Dushmanta saw Shakuntala, and it was love at first sight. They were mutually attracted to each other. They married by consent. A son was generated in the womb of Shakuntala. And they both decided, oh, this is embarrassing. So they left the child that was born, and the child was found in the forest by Kanva. And the child became you'll say it 3 times, very, very, very powerful, even as a small boy. So there's a painting illustrating the father and the mother, Shakuntala and Dushmanta, and there they are with their little son. And the little son was powerful. It's described about the son that he, as a child plays with toys, or a child may play with little puppies, he would play with lions and tigers and wild animals. Just like that. He was, that was his fun, the child's play. And they liked him, and he liked them. After some time, Shakuntala went back to the palace because Dushmanta had just abandoned Shakuntala, left her in the forest with her son, and wasn't acknowledging the responsibility of having produced a son. So the king was embarrassed. How to explain this to my citizens? So he refused to accept Shakuntala as his wife and the boy as his son. That was a mistake. A voice from the sky proclaimed Shakuntala was indeed Dushmanta's lawful wife, and the boy was his son, and then Dushmanta took the words of the voice from the sky saying, okay, I accept you. And the boy as my son. Here's the text from the Bhagavatam. O Maharaj Dushmanta, a son actually belongs to his father, whereas the mother is only a container like the skin of a bellows. According to Vedic injunctions, the father is born as the son. Therefore, maintain your own son and do not insult Shakuntala. He who discharges semen is the actual father, and his son saves him from the custody of Yamaraj. You are the actual procreator of this child. Indeed, Shakuntala is speaking the truth because he was denying it. And he was caught with his hand in the cookie jar. So he accepted. And his successor was his firstborn son. So Bharata, as you see in the painting here, there's elephants, and at his feet there's lions and tigers and, soldiers and elephants, and, he's a powerful boy, now powerful young man, Bharata. Now all of this is to help us understand who's Kuru and the dynasty preceding him. After Dushmanta's departure, Bharata became the emperor of the world. Partial representation of Vishnu, 55 horse sacrifices, 78 horse sacrifices in the bank of the Yamuna. He ruled his subjects for 27,000 years. Obviously, it's a different age than our present age. And then he retired. Kuru was a descendant of Bharata after several generations. So all this was like, who is Bharata? Who is Kuru? Who are the ancestors, and how did he become in the lunar dynasty? I don't think you can have a quiz on all of these names. So some of you are good with names and some of you aren't, and I'm one that's not. I can read it from a text, but if I was asked to answer it with my eyes closed, I wouldn't be able to. But some of you are Mahabharata folks, and you can remember all this stuff because you heard it since childhood, and some of your children hearing for the first time. That's okay. Now comes a little question about Kuru. Why is it that the sons of Pandu are called Pandavas? And because instead of being called Kurus, because they're descendants of Kuru. And it was just Dhritarashtra's and Duryodhana's way of pushing them to the side. They're Kauravas as much as the Kauravas were Kauravas, sons of Kuru. But he made a distinction. Pandavas, like calling them a bad name or something, Pandavas, just to separate them. And here's another map. We've seen a few maps. The Kuruksetra, a general description of Kuruksetra, or depiction, with the place very near where Kuruksetra is, along the riverbank. And, some other places surrounding it, Punjab, etc., etc. So the land of Kuru, sacred land, under the name of Kuru. How did it take the name Kuruksetra? Well, it had to do with the austerities, the effort of King Kuru to take that which was already understood to be a sacred place to be even more sacred, to invest it with whatever one can invest a sacred place with. And specifically, we heard this already, those of you who were with us this morning, and there are 8 principles. Use this as a diagram which was placed in the land to indicate the dividing of these different 8 virtues listed on the left. Here we are seeing the same list in this graphic. And his intention, Kuru's intention, was to, by sacrifice and tapasya of a particular kind, the particular kind was plowing the land, and then eventually from the plowing of the land to place seeds and to grow in the not just spinach and carrots, but to grow virtue. That was the vision of King Kuru. And he was calling upon Lord Indra and Lord Vishnu to help him. He was doing the service, but he was leaving their blessings for this to become possible. And these are the 8 virtues, and as was mentioned in the morning session, there are a number of texts written, and I didn't cut and paste and circulate. If you want, we can do that, but you can do it on your own if you want. What these 8 virtues represent, why are they significant? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is said, after, we mentioned this in the morning, after his visit to Vrindavan, it is, some say, one of the places he passed through on his way back to Puri was he passed through Kuruksetra, and appreciated very much the sacredness of Kuruksetra. In the background of his painting, you could see River Jamuna and the Madan Mohan Temple. Well, of course, the Madan Mohan Temple wasn't built till much later. So while King Kuru is engaged in plowing the field with a golden plow, King Indra came and asked him, "My dear sir, what are you doing?" And he explained what he was doing. His intention was to invest the land with great degrees of these 8 virtues. And he wanted that anyone who would reside here and do austerities here and would die here, they would attain heaven. Indra laughed and left. And he came back and he saw he was doing the same thing, and he saw he was doing the same thing 3 times, and he saw doing the same thing. And he became very impressed. This person is very devoted, very sincere. And so Indra, gave a particular benediction. And there's a lengthy text someone sent me from Mahabharata, where Indra gives this benediction. I can read it later if you like, but here's what I have. He composed a verse and said, "The very dust of Kuruksetra, blown away by wind, falling on a man, even if a doer of bad acts, would be granted Swarga," heaven. So Indra has the power to do that, and he granted that power because that was the conviction and the intention of King Kuru. Then, after some time, it continued for a number of days. It doesn't say how many days, but he continued this cultivation. He already got this benediction from Indra, and now he continued, and Lord Vishnu came. And Vishnu asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said the same thing. Vishnu, asked Kuru to give to Vishnu the seed, and he would sow it for him. Like, let me help you. You're plowing the field, you must have some seeds. Give me some seeds and I'll plant the seeds for you. I'll assist you. So Kuru extended his right arm. This is now taken from Mahabharata. Kuru extended his right arm, and immediately his right arm was cut into 1,000 pieces, and by the chakra of Lord Vishnu, and sown into the earth. His limbs, this goes way back to the beginning, that he sacrificed his limbs because his limbs became seeds that went into the soil. And then Kuru extended a left arm and 2 legs, and then his head were offered by him to Vishnu for sowing. So his bodily parts became seeds to invest in making this place a sacred place. So mission accomplished. Both Indra, so the mission from Vishnu was the persons that would die there either by performing austerities and so forth, or in battle, either, they would attain the spiritual world in Kuruksetra. So we know, or we should know, that all the persons who were killed in Kuruksetra, in the presence of Krishna, they attained Vaikuntha. They achieved liberation, not just, a heavenly destination. Now, before this chopping of his arms and so forth, Vishnu asked, "Do you want a benediction?" "I want 2. 1, the place should be named after me. And anyone that dies here, they would not take birth again in the material world, that achieve the spiritual world." So that his austerities were intended not for himself. He sacrificed his body, but it was for the welfare of others. Pretty amazing. After some time, there was a battle, and in the battle, there was the most elder of all of the Kuru ancestors, and this fellow pictured here, you can find his picture on the internet, big-bodied fellow. He was the elder brother of Santanu. And who is Santanu? Santanu was the father of Grandfather Bhishma. Now, Grandfather Bhishma's grandfather, he's like really old. And his father is Santanu, and Santanu had an elder brother, and there this elder brother is, and he was on the battlefield, fighting on behalf of the Kauravas, because he's in that dynasty. And he wasn't in this tiff between cousins. That was between Duryodhana and the Pandavas. But just like Grandfather Bhishma fought, for the reason that why did Grandfather Bhishma fight for the Kauravas or Duryodhana? Here's why. It's a nice reason. When he took this pledge from his father, Santanu, "I will not become king. However, in the future, I will always give support to the king. I won't be the king, but he'll have my military support." Because he had taken that vow, and he doesn't break his vow, he fought on the wrong side. There was another reason. He can be opposed to Krishna. He could see Krishna on the chariot all the time. But that was one of the major reasons, because he gave his word, he kept his word. But this other fellow pictured here, Bhalika, didn't have that same vow, so he fought with Duryodhana. And during this fight with Duryodhana, he was killed. He was killed by Bhima, who, during some encounter, Shri Shri Radha Neela Madhava Ki Jai. Bhima threw his club and hit him in the head and killed him. That was the end of this big warrior. a few other things, and we're almost completed. This is a particular place, a place where the Bhagavad Gita was spoken. This is commemorating that place. Here, similarly, there's a lake near this place, and celebrated. A description from Gaura Lila when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was living in Puri, and he would see the Jagannath deity in the Jagannath temple, he'd remember Kuruksetra. Remember Kuruksetra because that's where Krishna met with the residents of Vrindavan, and his mind went to Krishna meeting the resident of Vrindavan in Kuruksetra during the solar eclipse. And it's right there in Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would see Jagannath along with Balaram and Subhadra, he would immediately think that he had reached Kuruksetra, where all of them had come. He would think that his life was successful because he had seen the lotus-eyed one whom, if seen, pacifies the body, mind, and eyes. So he was transcendentalists see things of this world differently than we see things of this world. They see things through divine eyes, and they see what they see. And this is a description by Krishnadas Kaviraj of what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would see. So there's this Phala Stuti. We're going to end with this. Phala means the fruit or the benefit of hearing all of these nice descriptions of Kuruksetra and Krishna's meeting with the gopis from Vrindavan. We heard already some description this morning. The gopis wanted Krishna to come with them. The whole of the Rath Yatra festival is the mood of the resident of Vrindavan wanting to put Krishna on a chariot and bring him to Vrindavan. So the place where Lord Jagannath goes for a week is that place. It's representing the mood of Vrindavan. And then after he stays there for 7 days, he goes back to Jagannath Puri. And there's a place in Puri, Brahma Sarovar, where when there's a solar eclipse, it's recommended to undergo purification, taking bath in Brahma Sarovar during the occasion of solar eclipse. So that's our concluding discussion on King Kuru. And what's the time? 11:30. So we're supposed to go until 12 o'clock. So we've been having these lively discussions so far. Let's see if there's going to be another lively discussion session. Yeah, go ahead. He's got a little microphone, and we probably can hear you better.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for a wonderful discussion. I'm so grateful that I could hear the second part of the discussion on King Kuru. My question is, did King Kuru know that he was going to sacrifice himself for the benediction of the battlefield?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't specifically his intention to sacrifice his body. It was Lord Vishnu's suggestion. So his embodiment can be invested in the land, but as seed, because when you're plowing, you want to cultivate. But the auspiciousness was already generated by his austerities and purification, etc. And so Vishnu knew, and Vishnu did what Vishnu did. It wasn't like hey, I want to sacrifice my body. Can you chop my body up in little pieces? But he was prepared. And he didn't say, ouch, or, hey, what's going on? He had this intention, and whatever Vishnu's plan is good enough for me, kind of thing. Yeah. By the way, you're a good listener. Speakers learn who's really paying attention and who's not so much paying attention. You're attentive listener. Compliments.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. One observation and then a question. So the self-sacrifice of the body also reminds us of Dadichi sacrificing
Yes.
his bones.
Yes.
Is there anything deeper for devotees to learn in these kind of incidents?
No,
or-
it just, whatever the Lord wants. It's not like he wants your body. He just, whatever he wants. And whatever he wants is what we want, whatever that means. Is there a limit? It's not the same, but it's, another similar is Bali. He sacrificed everything. He didn't have to chop his body in little pieces, but he sacrificed everything. And Vishnu took everything. And then he gave him back everything. Go ahead.
Regarding the boons from Indra and Lord Vishnu to King Kuru, I was wondering if one supersedes the other, entry
Sure.
to heaven versus...
Yeah, different people have different desires, and there was already it's levels. Become free from sin, attain heaven, attain Vaikuntha. He's got bases covered. 1, 2, 3. It was already free from sin. Auspicious holy places. Just being in those holy places and bathing in the sacred rivers of those holy places cleanses one of reactions to past sins. When Indra gave this benediction to Kuru, the demigod said, wait a minute, how is it without performing auspicious and virtuous activities, one can get entrance into the heavenly region without being auspicious first? But Indra indicated that the being in this place is already, the auspiciousness is generated. That was his reply to the demigods. They were objecting. Someone, yeah.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for the nice class. Maharaj, I have 2 questions. One, King Kuru plowed the place and his own body parts were used as seeds to...
It wasn't a package deal. It happened one after the other.
So, is it right to say that King Kuru was the embodiment of all the 8 virtues because his body parts were...
You can say that. I won't object. But I haven't heard that anywhere in Mahabharata or our acharyas. We usually just stick to what the scripture says and our acharyas say.
What were those? I mean, his body parts were used as seeds.
Seed for what?
For what? What came out of it?
Okay. Creating auspiciousness.
And these were the...
Well, it wasn't his determination. It was Vishnu's determination.
Sure. Thank you. Second,
Yeah.
yesterday we heard about Brihaspati and Mamata, his brother's wife.
Yeah.
And today
Messy.
his wife Tara and Soma seems to be pretty convoluted. Despite that, following the genealogical line, in Yayati, there is both Yadu's dynasty and the Kuru dynasty. Pretty
We'll get
illustrious.
to him. You want to get to him?
No, the question I have is that Krishna appeared in so-called the dynasty of Soma.
When you say so-called, why are you saying so-called?
In Moon dynasty, not
Okay.
Soma dynasty.
Okay.
That's what I mean.
I mean, that's the external picture, but that's what he did.
So my question
He
is,
appeared in the prison house of Kamsa. He didn't have to appear at all, but he appeared in the prison house of Kamsa.
my question, Maharaj, is that externally their affairs or their dealings seems to be very immoral or
Yeah.
less than
Messy.
right. However, just because Krishna appeared in that dynasty, does it mean that
Yes, of
Krishna,
course. Yeah. The touch of his feet purifies everything.
My question is, does Krishna not consider that as a transgression?
When Prabhupada came to America, did he not know people are degraded? But beyond on the other side of the degraded, or scrape away the degraded covering, and there's something else. And that's what he could see. Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Maharaj. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj. Wonderful class. I'm trying to frame the question. We talked about Brahma and the Brahma Vimohan Leela and Bharat Maharaj. So my question is, in the Brahma Vimohan Leela,
In the Brahma what?
Brahma Vimohan Leela.
Okay.
Yeah, well, Brahma does this offense at one level of stealing the cowherd boys. It also manifests where Krishna is able to give to all the Vrajavasis himself in a very personal way, where he expands himself and all that. So, so on one level there is some offense shown.
Yeah.
Other level there is this deep
Yeah.
association of devotees. He's able to give himself personally. I'm saying.
Well, Krishna inspired the whole shebang. It's a Leela. And when Krishna wants a Leela, don't say no. Now, there's other things going on, yes. But, that supersedes everything else but Krishna wants. And he selected Brahma for a reason. Great devotee. And, the end of the Leela, Brahma has a desire. I want to take birth in Vrindavan. And Krishna doesn't say yes or no, because Krishna wants him to do his service, but he's now carrying in his heart a desire to take birth in Vrindavan. Krishna wins, right?
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
Yeah. But you talked about Bharat Maharaj also, the tendency even at Bhava stage. I was reading yesterday after you
Now,
mentioned.
this is a different Bharat.
Yeah, that's a different-
A different Bharat. Similar name, different personality. Okay? Okay, you're all satisfied or hungry or something.
Maharaj, spiritual master of demigods means he is also considered as spiritual master for humans also.
Who?
Brihaspati.
No,
No, only for demigods.
Shukracharya.
Humans. Spiritual master of humans also. No, only for demigods. Okay.
I mean, why are you asking that question?
Because Soma is like a human, so Soma is human, right?
No, he's the son of Atri. Atri is this mind-born son of Brahma.
Okay.
Haribol Guru Maharaj. This is in regards to yesterday's class on Gautam Muni. There was a line and I'm not sure if I understood it correctly, but it said that liberated beings do not have consciousness.
That's not correct.
Okay.
That's people have that view, not that he has that view.
Okay. Yeah, when I read it, I didn't get that, so
Okay.
that clarifies. Thank you.
It was a contemporary view. It's not Gautama's teaching. And he had to deal with it. He dealt with it. Okay. And he knows the scripture. The scriptures don't say that.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay.
Maharaj, a question from yesterday morning's class. When I was listening to all the criticism that was being shared, and one of the lessons from yesterday morning's class was do not criticize. And we saw it in an episode in Shiva's life, how criticism brought about so many things. I'm also trying to see if something like that, I'm sure there is, but if you could probably give me a few examples of some episodes from the Mahabharata and the Ramayana where criticism caused some downfall.
May I ask you why you want examples? So that you can better understand, or?
Recently, I've been trying to see episodes that are very similar in the Ramayana and in the Mahabharata. One of the episodes that recently came to my mind is how Vibhishana leaves, and then how he tries educating his brother, and then he leaves, and then Vidura leaves after talking to Dhritarashtra. So I'm just trying to see parallels between all these itihasas.
Well, those two examples are examples where a service-minded Vaishnava, devotee of the Lord, wants to serve others, even they're in offensive condition or space, but they want to serve anyway, to the point where they realize there isn't service anymore. And then they depart to do direct service instead of that particular kind of service because of family relation or relationship within a closed group, family-like. The important principle is remain service-minded. Two things: remain service-minded, and when being service-minded, when making some recommendations, be sure that you're not being offensive when making recommendations. A nice example of that came up in Prabhupada's pastimes when Prabhupada was, I can't remember. Yes, it was Guru Das speaking of his association with Prabhupada, and one time Prabhupada had a meeting with Bhaktisiddhanta's brother. So on the level of his guru, he was with, somebody help me with his name, I'm really bad with names. Bhaktisiddhanta's brother, who was an elevated personality. I can't remember his name. So Prabhupada was in the room, Guru Das was accompanying Srila Prabhupada in the room. And Guru Das took it that Prabhupada was thrashing him. And afterwards, Guru Das asked Prabhupada, how is that not Vaishnava Aparad? And then Prabhupada corrected him and said, I never accused him of anything. I only asked questions. Prabhupada was careful to avoid criticism of a superior, elder to, a brother of his spiritual master. Brother or god brother? Maybe it was god brother. Huh? Lalit Prasad. Yes, thank you. I have to keep you around for my bad memory purposes, because you have a good memory. Oh. So it wasn't Radhabala, but it was you.
No. What I'm saying is that there's another incident also where my Guru Maharaj was saying that he was actually, after the discussion, he was saying they are bad and the God brothers of Srila Prabhupada were terrible and so on. Prabhupada turned to him and said, I can criticize my God brother, but you can't.
Okay. The way that Guru Das said that Prabhupada responded when he asked him, wow, Prabhupada was very strong and said, I never spoke against him, I asked questions. But the tone of his asking questions was apparently, confrontational. But I didn't accuse, I was asking. So, at least Guru Das took it as a lesson. If you feel that correction is needed, I do this sometimes, not just with people that need correction, but people that are kind of stuck. And they got beans in their ears. So if they can't hear, if I sense they can't hear, I just ask questions. Then they can think about the questions, that unanswered question, because they don't have answers. They have a little bit of sincerity, and they can. So sometimes depends on the circumstance, but that's a method to help people that have beans in their ears, and they can't hear. So, Lalit Prasad. Someone else? Yes. Oh, yes. You had a question.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for the virtual yatra. It was wonderful to see Kuruksetra and learning the history.
Where do we get to Badrinath? Wow. That's the icing on the cake.
My question is about Balika. Why he had to fight with the Kauravas? I know Bhishma has an obligation. He promised his father.
Yes.
But Balika is brother of Santanu. Why he had to fight with Kaurava?
He wasn't of the same character and caliber.
So it's his choice.
He's just with the family. He didn't doing the family thing. Different persons have different compasses, why they do what they do. I don't know. We have to ask him why he did what he did. But, he was just going along with the party. He's an elder in family. And then there's those fellows over there, etc. I don't know what his thought process was. Or what, is there something behind it? Is there Krishna purpose behind it? I don't know.
One more realization I was trying to understand today is, irrespective of the creed, caste, or character, Krishna will appear anywhere he wants.
Krishna what?
Krishna will appear anywhere he wants.
Sure.
And he can deliver anybody he wants.
Yeah.
So there is we don't need to have a qualification.
That's right.
So that is very clear if we understand the different types of lineages and all that.
So
You don't
Krishna
have
is
to,
not bound by our rules.
right.
He sets rules and he breaks rules. His own rules. And we can't break, we have some authority and set rules. We can't violate our own rules. We're bound by our rules. If we're supposing you're the temple president, you say, do this and don't do that. I made the rule, I don't have to follow it. That's not right. But Krishna can.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
And smile. But it's the exception, it's not the rule. Krishna telling Yudhisthira to tell a lie. Or, and other things. You have something? Online, anything? No? You have.
Yes, Maharaj. When we see all these pastimes where devotees go through challenges and elevated personality, I'm just saying, in Mahaprabhu's Leela, where it's said that it's a rare kind of a mercy which is descending the pure holy name, and we hear the prayers and the pastimes where we say Nityananda Prabhu is trying to give holy name, the pure, full holy name, full love of Godhead to the most fallen soul. So the question is, while we know this is a very special era of Mahaprabhu's pastime through Srila Prabhupada and his disciples, we also hear this is a fast-paced way back to the Godhead. So in terms of when for practicing sadhakas, when they do offenses and they chanting the holy name in the line of Mahaprabhu's era, that is within Hare Krishna movement ISKCON, you feel they get this additional mercy of going. Not that they need to commit offenses intentionally, but even if by psychophysical nature they have a certain tendency, it's a fast-paced route back to Godhead, or am I incorrect in that understanding?
Your question is a little muddled, but I'll answer your question this way. And, different communities of devotees might want to consider, in principle, how to train the devotees to behave properly with other devotees. Vaishnava etiquette. How to do that. Set a good example. Great. And then there's always new people coming in the door, and they have their expectations, and they have their conceptions, they have their stuff, their baggage. And then somebody decides, out of all that, to commit a little bit more. And then they commit a little bit more, and they see stuff that's not exemplary. And, different reactions. Like, I'm out of here. Because there's behavior here that I don't, it rubs me the wrong way. And things like that. And as the Hare Krishna movement expands and expands, what are we doing about that? Is there anything that can be done about that? So, one place, there has been a plan that's made, it's like an annual plan, that one weekend, a national holiday weekend, is going to be training and education on Vaishnava etiquette. Just give it a general name, Vaishnava etiquette. So I invited Urmila Dasi to be a presenter next year, 2026. She's an amazing person. She books her time out like a year and a half ahead of time, and some people can't do it 2 weeks ahead of time. So, she's strapped in, And her topic is, what do you do? Your question is she's going to address your question. Well, at least a margin of what your question is, and that is a slice of what your question is. And what do you do when you're that person who you do something that's not right? And then there's categories of what's not right. There's things that are human mistakes, and there's things that are borderline, and things that are offensive. And when that hits you, what's recommended for such a person? Where's the ironing board to get those wrinkles out? Interpersonal and personal. What do you do? It's a nice topic. So that's your question, and I don't know how she's planning to answer that question, but I'm sure it's going to be well thought out, and she's a scholarly personality type. I'm sure it's going to be like over the moon. She's good. And it's going to lead to lots of discussion, introspection, and maybe some purification. Some people are going to have a pressed kurta or a pressed sari instead of wrinkly one. Maybe. Probably. And you see this young man over here, Vangsidari? He'll probably, if you ask him, he'll send you the recordings or a link to you get the recordings of her seminar, and you can do with it, what you feel you think is good. So I'm not directly answering your question. It's just because it's a big topic. And, as far as I'm concerned, it's a current topic. A current topic is where we have a lot of people coming in the door. And we want to more and more, and as that more and more happens, is it going to get watered down? Or is the standard going to stay up? And to have the standard stay up, how to have the standard stay up and not have it get watered down? By new people coming in the door, they don't really know what's what. Just like this little thing, I've done it 3 times already. Just, try as politely as I can to ask somebody, don't sit with your back to Prabhupada in the Vyasa-san. Just like, it's just one of those things. But how do you do that properly and persons don't get offended and, but not just look the other way because you don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers. But how to train and educate in such a way that we have the kind of ISKCON tomorrow that Prabhupada wanted yesterday. It's not easy. Have a founder acharya personality working amongst us, and he's effulgent, and people sit straight instead of slouch, or whatever. Prabhupada was powerful, and he could move people, and all it would take is his eyebrow to raise, and things would change. And we don't have that purity. So, and things are growing. So what's going to happen? This is a question I ask. What's going to happen over the next 2 generations? 3 generations? It's one of my buttons. I'm on a little pedestal. I should get off the pedestal, but I feel strongly about this topic. What's the future, and how to preserve integrity and purity as things diversify? Do you know who Gopal Bhatta is? I asked Gopal Bhatta, can he come with me to be a co-presenter on this topic? And he's thinking about it, but he's busy, so he hasn't gotten back to me yet. But, it hit one of his buttons, because some years ago, he and Konteya and one other person put together what they presented. They called it the fading acharya. You know about that one? First generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation is really fuzzy. The founder acharya. The fading acharya over time. And it's thoughtful persons that have, we say, Prabhupada, I love you. What's being done about that over the next several generations so he doesn't disappear or fade? How to maintain prominence. She's enthusiastic. We've already crossed our time. Give her the microphone, and you got the last question.
Thank you for taking my question, Guru Maharaj. I would not be able to answer that question, of course. However, in my situation, when I found myself first coming to ISKCON, I was very conditioned by the material world, and I knew that I was going to be learning something about God and very profound. So I remember even before stepping into the doors of Bhakti Farm, I surrendered myself, and the continuous process of surrendering, reading the Bhagavad Gita, chanting the holy names, and listening to prescribed authorities has helped me, I believe, begin the purification process. And I remember Guru Swami Maharaj, that when I first asked you what is the best way to advance in spiritual life, you said that your spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, had told you that the number one way to advance in spiritual life is 90% association. So my question for you now is, if one is still on the path of Krishna consciousness after years, what is the next step towards becoming more mature in spiritual life after the first steps?
Well, one answer to your question is, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it's the same step each successive stage. In his words, the beginning, the preliminary beginning, because stage 2 is sadhusanga, but stage 1 is faith. Because in sadhusanga, faith grows. So association, faith grows. And so to continue, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the stages of bhakti are simply descriptions of stages of faith. And to nurture faith, it's sadhusanga. The principle doesn't change. Then you may be more selective about with whom those you like to spend maximum attention and time, and not like dismissive of other people, or snobby, or condescending, or something like that to others that don't have that same. But you hold those that have the gift of pure bhakti in very special esteem and regard, so that when they say something, it moves your heart. And that's how further progress is made, through the same principle, with a heart that's now soft and more pure. Same principle, sadhusanga, leads to further progress. Okay, let's end. Srila Prabhupada ki. Yeah.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Please let's have a big round of applause for Maharaj.